In a quiet American town tucked between rolling fields and winding highways, life moved at a steady, unhurried pace. Ryan Carter knew that rhythm all too well. He was a poor but hardworking mechanic who owned a small garage at the edge of Main Street. The paint on the garage door was peeling, his tools were worn, and the bills always seemed higher than the money coming in. Still, Ryan showed up every morning, wiping the grease off his hands and reminding himself that honest work was the only thing keeping him afloat. One warm afternoon, the sound of a struggling engine echoed down the street. A sleek luxury car, a sight rarely seen in the little town, rolled to a stop right in front of Ryan's garage. The driver's side door opened, and out stepped a young woman in her mid-20s, dressed with quiet elegance. She glanced around, nervously, as though unsure if she should even be here. People with her kind of car usually headed to dealerships in the city, not small-town garages run by a man barely keeping his business alive. "Excuse me," she said softly. "My car just gave up. Can you take a look at it?" Ryan nodded without hesitation. "Of course. Let's see what we can do." As he lifted the hood and began diagnosing the problem, the woman stood nearby. To his surprise, she didn't act entitled or impatient. Instead, she struck up a conversation, asking him about his work and life in the town. Ryan, usually quiet around strangers, found himself answering honestly. He spoke about the long hours, the tough winters, and how fixing cars wasn't just a job, but a way to help people get back on the road and back to their lives. Slowly, the woman began opening up too. Her name was Claire. She confessed that despite her outwardly perfect life, she felt lonely and burdened by expectations. "Everyone sees the car, the clothes, the money," she admitted, her voice trembling slightly, "but no one really sees me." Ryan paused, leaning on the hood for a moment. He wasn't sure what to say, but his eyes met hers with genuine sincerity. "Sometimes," he said, "people don't need fixing like cars do. Sometimes they just need someone to listen." For the first time in a long while, Claire felt safe, standing in a grease-stained garage with the scent of oil and metal in the air. She felt more valued than she had in any lavish ballroom or luxury penthouse. Ryan didn't care about her wealth, her last name, or the world she came from. He saw her as a person, not a possession. As the sun dipped lower in the sky, Ryan finished patching up her car enough to get her home safely. But when Claire drove away, she couldn't shake the warmth she had felt in that small garage. For the first time in years, someone had treated her with respect, honesty, and kindness, and it left her heart stirred in ways she didn't expect. The next morning, Ryan was back in his garage, wiping grease off his hands and preparing for another long day. The night before, he had thought often about Claire. Something about her sincerity had struck a chord in him. He was used to fixing cars, but conversations like the one they shared didn't happen every day. He brushed off the memory, though, telling himself she was probably just passing through. Then came a sound he'd never heard on his quiet street, the deep roar of multiple engines. Ryan stepped outside, shielding his eyes from the sun, and his jaw nearly dropped. A convoy of sleek black SUVs slowly rolled to a stop in front of his tiny garage, kicking up dust as they parked. Neighbors peeked out from their porches, curious and wide-eyed. From the lead SUV, Claire stepped out, but she wasn't alone. Following her was an older woman dressed in a tailored suit, her presence commanding yet softened by the emotion on her face. Ryan immediately knew who she was, Claire's mother. He had seen her photo in newspapers and on TV, a billionaire businesswoman known across the country. But now, standing just a few feet away, she wasn't the untouchable figure from the headlines. She was a mother with tears shimmering in her eyes. "Are you Ryan?" she asked softly. "Yes, ma'am," he replied, feeling nervous but steady. "I fixed Claire's car yesterday." The woman's lips trembled as she stepped closer. "She told me everything, how you listened, how you treated her, not like an heiress, not like a headline, but like a human being." Her voice broke as a tear slid down her cheek. "Do you know how rare that is?" Do you know how much that means to a mother who has watched her daughter feel invisible in a world full of people who only see her money? Ryan stood silent for a moment, humbled, unsure what to say. He had never thought of his actions as anything extraordinary. To him, kindness was just part of who he was. Claire's mother suddenly stepped forward and embraced him tightly, her composure breaking in front of the small-town crowd that had gathered. "Thank you," she whispered, her voice trembling. "You gave my daughter something I couldn't buy her, peace, respect, and hope." Ryan felt his chest tighten with emotion. He wasn't a rich man and he didn't have much to offer, but hearing those words filled him with a sense of worth he hadn't felt in years. In the days that followed, the bond between Ryan, Claire, and her mother grew stronger. Claire continued to visit, not as a wealthy young woman with status, but as a friend. Her mother, deeply touched, offered to support Ryan's struggling garage, not out of charity, but because she believed in him. What began as a broken-down car became the beginning of something life-changing. Ryan's small-town kindness had crossed paths with a world of wealth and influence, and reminded them all that true value isn't found in money or luxury, but in honesty, respect, and the courage to simply care. For Ryan, it was proof that even